we all know Coca-Cola. Everybody drinks their products and it is supposed to be a great investment. But the thing is, we are about 50 years too late. The company is already so huge and returns are unlikely to outperform the S&P 500. In this video, we will dive into the iceberg of Coca-Cola to discover if we can invest in Coca-Cola's huge moat and outperform the indices as well. In other words, I want to have my cake and eat it too. So, Coca-Cola İçecek and Anadolu Efes are both Mohnish Pabrai clones, and I too have them in my portfolio. However, Pabrai has stated that his funds are out of Anadolu Efes, following Russia's takeover of Efes's beer business in Russia. I will be covering that later in the video. Now, depending on where you bought, you may be up more than 100% in these companies, but as you can see here, the last year has been incredibly rough for both of them. Efes is down 55% from its size from the same time last year in dollar terms, and Coca-Cola İçecek is also down 52% as well. I personally am still invested in both of them, and I believe that, as Charlie Munger has said, if you can't stomach a 50% drawdown, you are gonna get the mediocre returns that you deserve. So what we are going to do is, I will be going back to explain what these companies do, and then I want to do a destination analysis for CCI. We will also be looking at the current valuation as well as the current status of their businesses, and we will be determining if these companies are trading at great prices today that investors can possibly buy at low prices, or are these downturns justified and these companies are actually much worse than they used to be. As always, this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only and should not be relied as a basis for any investment. Now, let's start with Coca-Cola İçecek, and then we can get to Efes. First, let's remember what Coca-Cola İçecek, also known as CCI, does. CCI is a bottler company that works with the Coca-Cola Company, and they are getting the syrups from Coca-Cola, and from that point on, they are responsible with all of the remaining things that needs to be done before you drink your Coke or the other products of the Coca-Cola universe. The Coca-Cola Company also takes on the advertisement side of the business, so most of the ads that you see regarding Coca-Cola products are not made and paid by the bottlers. The Coca-Cola Company pays for all of those themselves. So in short, the advertisement and the syrup is on the Coca-Cola Company and everything else is on the bottlers. CCI is a Turkey-originated bottler that now has 12 countries and over 600 million population. The size has gotten significantly increased, especially after Pakistan and more recently the Bangladesh acquisitions. The shareholder structure is also simple. The main shareholder is Anadolu Efes, which I will cover later in the video. And Anadolu Efes is owned by the Anadolu Group in Turkey. The Coca-Cola Company also owns a little over 20% of CCI, and the remaining 29.6% is the free float that investors can buy. In this image, you can see that CCI was founded in 2005 in Turkey. In the last 20 years, they have been growing at an incredible pace. This also proves one other thing, and it is the fact that this growth cannot happen without good relationship with the Coca-Cola Company, so CCI has proved themselves in the markets they operate, and therefore gained the trust of the Coca-Cola Company, and that has allowed them to grow this much. So, the execution is there. Obviously, this one thing is not enough proof of the execution, but it is still noteworthy. Now, by far the most important part of this video is here. This is the reason I have CCI and indirectly Anadolu Efes in my portfolio. This is the most crucial part to understand if you want to get a grip of the bull case of these companies. In this table, what you see is the penetration of the beverage industry in selected countries. CCI has also highlighted their markets. Now, the emerging markets, excluding CCI, has an average of 507. Developed markets are at almost 1000, and CCI's average is only 374. And the beverage term here includes sparkling, juices, packaged water, iced tea, coffee, and energy drink. So it's a very broad term. Also, CCI is the market leader in all of these countries except, I believe, Iraq. What I want to get your focus here is not that CCI's averages are so low and there is an immense potential to the upside. I want you to look at the two lowest markets of CCI. They are Bangladesh and Pakistan. Bangladesh is at 48 8-ounce servings a year that includes everything I just listed. Pakistan is also at 102. So in Bangladesh, the most popular popular drink is tap water, which is not counted in this image. So imagine a world in 10-15 years where Bangladesh is averaging the rates of today's Turkey, Brazil, Russia, China, and similar countries. It doesn't seem far off. And also Bangladesh and Pakistan are all hot climates. A cold beverage is not a heart of sale as it could be in, say, Canada. So for these two countries' averages to get to 500, Pakistan needs to have a 5x and Bangladesh needs to have a 10x growth in their consumptions. And again, that is only to get to today's levels of countries like Turkey and Brazil. If we take today's Mexico as an example, that is a 10x for Pakistan and 20x for Bangladesh. Now, I am not getting into the numbers here. I am just doing a destination analysis and I don't want to bore you with numbers in this video, and honestly it will make the video so much longer too. Not only that, but CCI's countries are expected to grow by another 100 million people in the next 10 years. Even better, their GDP is expected to grow at a higher rate compared to the world's averages. Here it says the expectation is 4.5%, but it is a macro guess, so I am not trusting that a lot. However, it is completely logical to expect Bangladesh's GDP growth rate to be higher than the developed world like the EU or Japan. There is much more to CCI's thesis than this, but for a destination analysis, I believe now you have got the picture. Also, the current CEO, Karim Yahi, has 20 years of experience in the Coca-Cola universe. So we all know Coca-Cola, but it is not 1960 anymore. The Coca-Cola Company is already a stable company that pays hefty dividends. In my opinion, the growth of the Coca-Cola universe is coming through the geography CCI operates in. The moat of Coca-Cola is already a righteous example among value investors, and in my opinion, if an investor wants to get an in on that moat, CCI is the right play. Obviously, the downside is less protected, and bottling business is much more capital-intensive business compared to what the Coca-Cola Company has evolved into. But the potential upside of CCI is also a lot higher than the Coca-Cola Company, in my opinion. So in short, the highlight of the thesis is the Coca-Cola's moat and the growth potential of CCI's operation geography. If you want to get access to much deeper analysis of these companies as well as research and tower airports, all while supporting the channel, please check out my Patreon. The link is in the description. Now, let's go one step deeper into the Coca-Cola iceberg and look at CCI's parent company, Anadolu Efes. The main reason I own Efes is their ownership in CCI. As I said earlier, they own a little over 50% of the company. Today, when we subtract their stake in CCI from their market cap, the beer business is roughly valued at 21 million liras. The thing is, in 2024, and without inflation accounting, the beer group had a net income of 6 billion liras for their valuation of 21 billion liras. So normally, we would say that PE for the beer group is 3.5. However, Russia roughly makes up 2/3 of the volume. So now with the Russia is gone, the right number to use in my opinion is 2 billion liras, and even with that number, the beer group is still valued at a PE of 10.5. Also, that is when CCI has had a drawdown of 50% on its own. Currently, these companies are in their most hated times. Now, let's look at the business of Efes, and as you can see, despite not being backed up by a global giant like the Coca-Cola Company, Anadolu Efes is still a behemoth of a company, and they too are the market leader in the countries that they operate in. Also, they may not have the Coca-Cola Company, but they have the world's biggest brewer in AB InBev in their sites. AB InBev owns 24% of Anadolu Efes shares, so these numbers in your screen are actually including the Russian business. But at this point, I don't think Russia is going to give back that business, and even if they did, it would only be a pleasant surprise for me, because I like to base my investment thesis in conservative assumptions. So, with Russia included, Efes was Europe's 5th and world's 10th largest brewer. And here is an additional part of CCI where it says that CCI is world's 7th largest Coca-Cola bottler by volume served. But let me remind you that this number is despite the low consumption. I believe CCI is supposed to be the world's 3rd largest bottler by the population served. In this image, you can see that FS2 is a very competent company just like CCI. They are trying innovative things on their sector. This doesn't really affect my investment thesis, And actually, it may be even a negative if they don't come up with lower costs or higher sales, but it is a thing to keep an eye on. In here, you can see that Efes is planning to expand its geography as well. And from the earnings call, you can hear their plans of expanding into the areas where CCI operates, but Efes's beer business does not. I actually am in support of this plan because the company already has the know-how and the market expertise through their subsidiary, so I think the integration can be easier. Their most ambitious goal is to actually expanding into China, but I will actually believe it when I see it. And the other goals include Uzbekistan and Azerbaijan, where CCI already operates in. So those would be great additions for Efes in my opinion. And finally, they are planning to expand their beer operation to spirits category as well. And that includes whiskey, gin, and so forth. So I don't necessarily like Efes's own business that much, but they are not valued expensively. And when I invested in the company, they had the whole ownership in Russia. So the valuation was like at one point even less than 1 PE, which is what they are making in a year. However, at this point, I am still not selling nor adding to my positions. Currently, I have around a 5.5% allocation combined from these two companies. Efes is slightly higher than CCI at 3%. So in summary, if you want to get an in on the Coca-Cola's moat without giving up the growth potential, I believe CCI or Efes is your choice. These companies' market caps are at $2-3 billion range, and their growth roadmap is pretty obvious. They have conservative balance sheets and an expertise on execution. Their businesses are also easy to understand and keep track of through the volumes. With Efes losing Russia and a weaker period in terms of volume for CCI, these companies have had drawdowns of over 50% in dollar terms. But I believe they are quite cheap now. So I wanted to make this video. I will be returning to this video in the future to see if I am right or if I am too bullish and these companies are still down at these levels. Make sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss it, and drop a like and comment to support the channel if you like the content. As always, I release much deeper coverages on these companies as well as Reysash and TAV Airports, Mohnish's other Turkish bets. I am a shameless cloner myself, but I would rather be a cloner and be up 100% rather than coming up with my own ideas and hardly matching the indices. That's it for today's video, and I'll see you in the next one.